we found that, people in the kitchen washing dishes are super important to our organisation, but who sees them?
Welcome to the Tomorrow Is Not Today podcast. You've already started to create the life you want just by being here. Designed for you as a business professional so you can be physically, mentally and emotionally healthy, more productive, less stressed and living a life you truly love. My name's Kingsley and thank you for coming on another journey with one of our uniquely qualified professionals. Steve, Edgar, thank you so much for joining us on the Tomorrow's Not Today podcast. It's a pleasure having you in the studio.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kingsley. Looking forward to it.
It's been a while wanted to get you in here. I know you've got an incredible message to get to a lot of people who struggle with things that you've dealt with, I think, and overcome pretty well and help a lot of other people with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And if you are wondering, yes, we are wet. We both got caught in the rain today. I actually had to ride my motorbike in the rain, discovered that leather jackets aren't that waterproof.
Correct. And I went down to get you coffee, so that's why I'm wet. So
I appreciate that, Steve.
Pleasure, mate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, sacrificial man, I'm sure that'll be a lesson in there somehow with what we're talking about. But I want to ask you initially a big question to start off with, as we usually do. How do you create a culture and an environment that is stable and mentally healthy in a big organisation such as what you run?
Yeah, good question, Kingsley. It's something I work really hard on. We've got 90 staff, varying age groups there. So there's the ones I struggle the most with are the 18 to 20 somethings. They're sort of something I've not really dealt with before, but I think it's really important to understand that they are a little bit different to how I think, and it's up to me as a leader to think their way. So safe and stable is really the key there. So we have a zero tolerance on bullying and harassment. Really having your ears open all the time to listening to what's going on, and they will speak up, that's for sure. So that's one good thing. It's something I'm probably not that used to, but it's up to me to sort of adapt into their workplace, otherwise into their work styles, I guess. Otherwise, I'll find myself, I reckon, be out the back door pretty quickly. So it's a bit of a challenge, but it's just listening, and we're really, really working hard on. We understand there's been a massive shift in people's mentality, post-COVID. Like during COVID I don't think everyone's ever going to be the same again, me included. So it was sort of like, we just set up and we had those really massive staff shortages, especially on the Gold Coast here. And we thought, well, what's the use of sort of turning them over? Let's just try and keep the ones we have and look after them and try and nurture them. And, hospitality isn't really rocket science. So it's really about trying to find great people with really good values and can train them quite easily, and then just bring them into your organisation. They're not really burnt out, so they can come in and really enjoy being in that stable sort of family environment. So that's probably the answer.
Do you think that would be a fairly normal thing for any organisation, like your whole approach there with what you're doing?
I'm not really that sure. I mean, I think certainly the way we approach that is way different post March 2020. I think that's really what the change was. I think we're sort of sailing along. Everyone's just getting busier and busier and busier and just promote, and really a burn and churn sort of mentality. So I think everyone had a chance to stop and think and go, right, well, this is not really the way to go. It's no longevity to it. So I'm not sure everyone else is doing that, but I do see the mental health awareness type of thing is really prevalent now. And one of the things I'm really passionate about, as you know, is speaking up and not being frightened to show vulnerability and things like that. And I do know that resonates with anybody of any age, so that's one of the things we work on. So.
Yeah, because it's obviously when it comes to finding staff at the moment, they're in short supply to start with. Hospitality tends to be quite transient. So you've got two massive factors to deal with in and of itself alone there.
Yep.
Not only that, like you said, you've got a massive age range of people, and you've got to try to be able to relate to each one of those. So how do you actually get in a position where you can listen to all the different age brackets, all the different expectations from someone who may be a waiter from overseas or whatever, through to, high-level executive chefs and that type of thing? How do you manage to put all it together?
I don't really know.
Great. So much for this interview.
That's the end of that. No, look, it's a great question, and that's something that, the short answer is really I don't really know, but what you do is just try and find out. So, I've used things like, try to engage people who can talk to that age group, just trying to listen, as I said before, just trying to listen to them, what they want, and then you can act accordingly from there. We recently introduced some values to the organisation, and that's something that really that's our rule book, and it guides us every single day with people's behaviours. And it doesn't matter what age you are, you've all got to live by those values. Otherwise, you're not going to fit in. And just there's just things like integrity and all the things you expect to see, honesty, respect. If they don't live in every single person in our workplace, you won't last long. So that's what guides us, and the behaviours. And we just work really simply on rewarding great behaviour and encouraging people to things like recognise a teammate. We've got a public, not public, it's a staff platform where, for example, if I'm working in the bar and I've got slammed on a night and you're ready to knock off, you might spend 10 minutes of your own time, help me clean the bar down. Well, we use the platform to go, I'd recognise at Kingsley, thanks for helping me at the bar last night. You're a legend. You really helped me out. And that gets publicised amongst all the staff. So it really does publicise, really good things. And we encourage that with, we do monthly staff rewards based on those values as well. So you just keep on trying to highlight the good behaviours.
So let's delve into that, because I love that. I think that's awesome. And I don't know how many big organisations actually manage to do that sort of thing on a regular basis and keep it consistent.
Yep.
So when you talked about your values, and they're the values that sort of guides everything, your rule book, as I think was the word you used.
Yep.
How do you sort of play that out in a scenario? Can you give me a scenario where that's actually come into play and it's actually helped the organisation or individuals sort of come back and line up?
Yep. Well, when we induct people, it's we publicly show that a lot. So we've got an acronym, so it's SMILE, so it's SMILE, and each month we mark all of our staff on those. If you work there 30 hours a week, you're probably going to get 3 audits a week. I think if you do 5 shifts, you probably get 2 to 3 audits a week. So at the end of the month, you're going to get 8 to 10 audits. So you get a score out of that. So we'll do a monthly awards on those across each department, because we found that people in the kitchen washing dishes are super important to our organisation, but who sees them? A customer, you might come and have a great snitty and go, "Oh, that was amazing," but someone's got to get a clean plate to the chef to get that's really a forgotten thing. So those guys are super valued, but we really push that hard. It's advertised heavily through inside, back of house and front of house in our club. So all of our staff know when we induct them, we go very, very deep into this is what's required. If I have to get to the point of some performance management, sometimes I have, and I'll point out and go, look, your behaviour is really not inside our values here, and this is where you're falling down. I've just had a guy come up from general staff into supervisor only this week, and I printed off the values for him. So we have the values and how we display these, and there's about 10 sheets of paper, still old school. And I handed them to him. I said, take those home. He's a young fella in his mid-20s. And I said, you really need to read these. And he goes, oh, okay. And I said, no, you really do need to read them, because you'll find that's what I live by, and I really mean that. And I've had to unfortunately let go due to some pretty high-level bullying. And quite often the case, the people who do that don't understand they're doing it. They just don't think they are. And it was clear, and I tried to point out that her behaviour wasn't inside our values, and that's really where it was at. So it was a no-brainer. She had to go.
So it sounds like when you come into the organisation, you've got a standard. This is your standards. This is your expectations. Yep. This is where we start.
Yep.
So, and it's obviously clearly outlined, and they're agreeing to all of this.
Yep.
So when it comes to anything that needs to be pulled up, it's not something coming out of the blue. It's not, oh, why did you say that to me? Yeah. It's pretty clear.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And the challenge there is, like, I'm one person inside 89 others, so it's like I can't see and hear every single thing. So it's about, my line managers, there's about 15 or 20 of them. So they're the ones who really enable what goes on, what doesn't go on. And things like, if you've got a problem, you need to go and talk to somebody who can fix it. Not, most people will just go, walk around behind the back in the staff room and go, oh, bloody whinge, moan. But it's not fixing a thing. So when you go and approach them and go, look, that's really, I understand you're frustrated or upset, but what's actually being fixed here? Nothing. So you should bring it up to someone who can fix it, and let's get on the get to work on on fixing the problem. And I was only later on today, I've got a meeting with 2 legends in my workplace, and one of them is not from this culture, and his culture is don't complain about anything. He's just a real master-servant relationship. I pay him, he works, and he's at the point where he never spoke up. He came to me in tears last week, and someone goes, oh, why didn't he speak up? I was like, well, that's not how he operates. It's like he was just going to be completely compliant to a point where he's going to break. Come to me and said, I'm leaving. I said, no. I said, come in, let's sit down. I've got a meeting organised today with him and his supervisor and a few others that are around that scope of what he does for a job. And people have been letting him down because he works so hard. So I've got to get through that with him. But, most people won't work on it. They'll just want to whinge. So
it sounds like then that you've got a culture where if there is an issue, it's encouraged to talk about it rather than most people, if you bring that up, then you're the issue. Whereas in your culture, the culture that you're creating is one where if there is an issue and it's gone on, come and let's have a chat about it, find out what's really going on, and let's get a solution in there.
Yeah, I had a really good example only about 6 weeks ago, actually. I had to bring in a line manager, which is very difficult. So if they're outside the organisation, I've got to fit into all of those things. And if you're sitting up the ladder a little bit, you've got a bit of a target on your back. So, and look, that's, but I was really clear when this chap came in and I said, look, you need to fit in. All the guys, all the staff know what they're supposed to do. They generally do it. And they're very good at it. When they're busy, there's nothing required to, they'll just do their job. But on this particular night, this guy decided to get out of his lane and hook into the staff a little bit and start getting a bit aggressive towards them. And I got an email about, I think it was about 8:20 that night, and he said, dinner service didn't go very well, boss. 3 of the staff pulled me up and told me that's not how we do it around here. And we won't accept you speaking to us in that tone of voice. That's not. And I thought, and he was sort of very upset. And he was like, he wanted to know what I was going to do. And I said, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow because I'm sitting on the couch at the moment. So I went in the morning and 2 of them waiting for me, 2 of the staff, and they were very upset. And I just made it really clear to him. I said, these guys, they don't need to be spoken to or spoken down to. If there was no problem, you created the problem with your aggression towards them. And I was really proud of the guys for saying that's not how we do it around here. So it was a good example.
That's awesome. For them to actually feel, I guess, the comfort, the confidence, knowing that they can talk but in a good way, not in a whinging way, but in a good way, and go, hey, these are really our values, and that everyone here deserves to be respected, no matter who you are, what position you feel, or whatever. Yep,
and that was an occasion where I did go to the values, and I've had to really show him that that's where he was falling down, and he's not there anymore. Look, he did, to his credit, try to straighten it up, which was quite difficult for most people to do. It was very hard to look in and go, well, I'm the problem, but he did try, but look, he just didn't fit into our culture. So look, the consistency there, and look, one other thing I'll say is, when there's times when someone can't fit in or they continually break down with that, it's you've got to make the hard calls and get rid of them. Otherwise, it's not fair on the ones that are doing the right thing. And if you let those continue to survive and be a problem, it'll infect others very, very quickly. So we work pretty hard to make sure we cut out the cancer, I guess. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And that leads me to another thing which we're hitting on. And I know you're very, very big on this. You do so much work in the community, more on a volunteer basis than anything, I think, as far as that whole mental health side of things. Because if you're working in that sort of environment, because right now, obviously, it's a big issue, the whole mental health in workplace, bullying, all that sort of thing is a massive thing. And honestly, I think a lot of our leaders in the country are not portraying that in probably the best light to a large degree. So for you to be able to bring that into the workplace, how do you sort of, because that's obviously going to have a very positive effect on people's mental health and that sort of thing. So what are the things that you actually do, I guess, as a leader and as an organisation to help individuals that way?
Yeah, sure. That's another big question, and I think we are breaking some good ground in moving forward with that. One of the big things is really caring about your people, and that's your customers, your staff, and everybody inside your organisation. Really, it's about caring for them, and if you've got that there and you really got it in you, that's what's going to happen. So that means you listen to them and that sort of stuff. But like we are. So I guess, for example, it might be like 3 years ago, if you came to me in hospital and said, I don't want to work tonight, I've got some anxiety, I'd say, well, you better go and find another job. I wouldn't be too far off that. That's pretty much how I used to roll. So it wasn't great, but that's how I used to go. You come to me now and say, I can't work tonight, I've got anxiety. Well, you'll get the night off, no question about it, but that's not the answer. It's a bit of a Band-Aid effect because there's a flow on. Someone's got to come and do your shift, or the remaining guys are going to have to carry a heavier load. So whilst you're being fixed up initially, it's not. It's a bit of a Band-Aid. So I'll dig a bit deeper now. So we've set up a thing in our workplace called a wellness committee. So we've asked for some volunteers across all areas. So we've got about 9 people on it. So we're going to put them all through mental health first aid, which I've done and I recommend very, very strongly for people to do because it's an amazing thing to open your eyes up. So we'll put them all through that. We'll meet monthly at this stage about how to deal with that. So opening up some communication channels for general staff to go and talk to someone that they'll feel comfortable talking to anytime. That's really important. And a lot of the times, it's sometimes a work issue will be affecting their mental health. So we've got to be able to determine that very quickly. And this is where I don't think people have got to just yet in business, is we've got to be able to determine, is it a work issue or is it an outside issue? If it's a work issue, we've got to be very careful we don't undermine the department heads. And you can't come and go, well, I'm not getting enough hours. The truth is, not because you're a lazy bastard. Come to the wellness committee delegate and go, well, I'm not getting enough hours, and they shouldn't have the power to go and just write you in your roster. You know what I mean? There's got to be some. Yeah. There's got to be some. So we're really working where that goes, but we do things like we've got free counselling at any time for any staff member or any of their immediate family. We've got free gym membership for any of our staff, and we're finding that's not enough. It's a big jump between someone having a problem and actually taking the card out of the staff room and ringing up our counsellor. It's a big step. So we understand that that's not enough. So we're really sort of trying to dig into what's next.
Because one of the things I think in those lines is the fact that if people do talk to somebody, they've got a mark next to their name, and that's what they're afraid of, and for good reason in certain organisations. So they're afraid to actually talk to somebody because of what the repercussions that might happen, how they'll be looked at, how they'll be treated, all that sort of thing. Yep. How do you combat that? Yeah,
well, I mean, it's a really good thing to say. It's getting back to that whole feeling safe thing as well. So there's a lot of trust involved there. I'm the only person who'd get that person's name in the organisation. I'll get an email from our counsellor and go, it's I've seen Kingsley today. I think Kingsley needs another 3 or 4 sessions. Yep, I'm okay with that. And then the administration get invoice saying counselling for a staff member authorised by Steve, and we just pay it. So it's completely confidential in that regard. There's a professional courtesy there. Like obviously, our counsellor doesn't talk about it. She's local and she'll get you in quite quickly. But that's a real trust issue. And as many times as I say that, some people won't want to talk. But sometimes it's just I think there's other things too, like learning. Came out of the mental health and some work I did with Matt Runnels at Mindful Australia, was having the ability to know how to listen properly. And most people can't do that. Like like if I'm the boss and you come to me and go, I'm not feeling well, sit down, shut the door, and you're almost compelled to dominate the conversation when what really should happen is just don't say a word. Just encourage them to go, what's going on, and just nod your head and just affirm that everything's okay. And I'm just learning that now because I can talk, as you know. So that's just letting the guys get it off their chest sometimes, and just understanding the fact, it's like, medical first aid. We aren't doctors or nurses when we do first aid. We're first responders. So mental health first aid, the same things. We're not psychologists or doctors. We just want to provide some ears for people sometimes, and maybe some advice where to go from there. So,
okay. There's so much in that, like just what you're saying. It's just a huge amount of stuff that anybody who's got one or more staff can take a lot out of this, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You've put in place the counsellor, which is fantastic, and the gym membership. Yep. How many people actually do you think would take that up?
The counsellor was last year. We would have done, I think, we had something like less than 30. So it's less like sessions. I mean, like There wasn't 30 people. Would have been about 12 to 15 people used it. Including a couple of my family, to be honest with you. So it was, which is fine. But and out of that, there was, I think there was 2 others in my workplace who their spouses had come, and another one where a lady was having some trouble with her marriage breakdown, and her daughter and her both went some co-counselling. So look, and there was some really good work out of that. And the staff member came back to me later and said they were so grateful that there was that was in place. So,
and the fact that it actually extends to family, as well, that's huge.
Yeah. So look, there's 2 sides to it. It's like offering it is one thing, and it's isn't that great? It's the same with the gym membership. You go, if you come and work at Cooley Surf Club, you got free gym memberships. Oh wow, there's not many places do that. But in reality, there's probably 20% of the staff who actually use it.
Yep.
There's about another 20% to go, oh, I'm going to use it, and they don't. And then other people just go, well, it's not for me for whatever reason. Then some people have, we actually had the gym guy come over and do we do every second month, we do an engagement session with our staff. He came over and we did a live question and answer thing on the phones. I can't remember what it's called. But it was like, what's holding you back from coming to the gym? And there was a number of issues. Like most people were a little bit frightened of being judged or walking through the front doors for the first time. A bit like everyone stops and looks at you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that with anxiety with people, but trying to break those barriers down. But we're always trying things. So
yeah, no, absolutely, and the work you do, like I said before, is just phenomenal. So I want to go to now where there's some people listening. They've got a business. They've got some staff. Might be 1 or 2. It might be 90 staff, and they're like, I need to change something in my organisation because it's the culture's starting to get a little bit toxic. It's not quite what I'm wanting. It's not who I am as a person, as far as I know. What are, say, 3 things that they could do straight away to start to change that?
Yep. I think that, first of all, you've got to have a really good look at things. So if you're sort of inside, it's that old thing, if you're working in your business, you're not normally working on it. I think you've got to get in a helicopter, whatever that looks like. Whether you've got to get away for a few days, have a think about it and have a really good look. Perhaps you might want to get someone else to come and have a look and go, what do they see? And you can normally get a good snap of that fairly quickly. And a lot of the times it'll be about what you aren't doing yourself, and that's a problem with being a leader. You're quite vulnerable to. So a lot of the times it'll be you have the ability to fix it. Sometimes you are part of the problem, so you just need to change what you do. And it's about being brave, I think.
How do you know if you are some of the issue? Because I know you said you have like a helicopter view, go away and have a think about it. Sometimes it's still really hard to know, is that me? Am I really doing this? Because you can understand what you do sometimes, but how do other people perceive that?
Yeah. It's a big one. I mean, I think it's about, one thing I sort of really developed very early in my management career was, if something goes wrong, have a look inside before you look outside. And I think, even now, like I look back with the wisdom of age, you sort of look at someone and you go, those people, if something goes wrong, they're always pointing the finger at somebody else. There's still loads of those around. I think that's a real key factor. Yep. And you can't do that as a leader because you're gonna be running a toxic workplace. You've just got to look at yourself and go, it's continual improvement, but sometimes it's partly broken, and you just got to have a good look and go, own up to it. Like, I mean, I never ever am frightened to say I've done something wrong, or I can do something better, it's really compelling when I talk to a staff member and I go, well, it's my fault, I've done something wrong. They go, what? And they give you a bit of a look, and it's like they're not used to it. But that's part of building trust.
Yep.
So I don't really know if you don't know how to do that. I'm not that good, but I think what I'd recommend is if someone else come have a bit of a look, and you don't want to get hurt in people's feelings, but sometimes you go, well, there's a bit of a lack of direction here, perhaps. Maybe it's not a personal thing, but the introduction of values, I think, that guides every single person, whether the CEO or the dishwasher, Salomon or whatever. It's everybody's got to live by them, everybody, and you've got to display them. You can't go, these are the values for all the staff, but the managers can do something different. That's not how it works.
Okay, so you got to stand back, have a look at yourself and what's going on. Put in some value system that everybody from the top to bottom, no matter who they are, follows through. Yep. Is there a third thing?
Well, I mean, I think having a good look at what's going on around you, and it's a constantly changing environment. So you've got to sort of be lining up with what's in front of you there. In my case, hospo, like it's changed so much since last year, and you got to go, right, well, where are we going now? Like, we've just rolled out of Christmas period, and we had the best Christmas we've ever had last year. It was the very first Christmas holiday period after COVID where people could book a holiday and international travel was off the book. So we were slammed all year. So the people I report to go, this is amazing. We made so much money it wasn't funny. But then the downside is you're going to compare yourself now to what that was.
Yeah.
And you can't go, well, we're never going to get there again. Well, people go, oh, yeah, why not? So we adapt to go, right, well, what do we look at now? So it's, the cost of living is really hurting. But in regard to your own business, whatever it is, it's you've got to know what's going on with because there are external pressures which you have no control over, or do you? You do in some ways. Like I can't control how many people come through the front door. Yes, I can. It's called promotions and marketing. can I control how much they want to spend? No, I can't. But, it's about making them feel like they're welcome and valued in my workplace and that sort of stuff. So I don't know what industry others are in, but you've got to look ahead and could that be part of your problem? Because that's going to put some financial pressure on your business, which is going to put some mental pressure on you as a leader and cause issues inside your business. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I think it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there is always things changing and adjusting, whether it is an external thing or an internal thing, or, the time of year that it might be, seasons, all that sort of thing. So it sounds like part of that. So you go away, you have a look at yourself. What am I doing? What am I creating? How do I need to adjust myself? Have a level of values that everybody, no matter who they are, lines up with and falls in lines with. So everybody knows what the standards are for everybody. And then having a look around as to what's adjusting. What do I need to adjust? How do I need to change things? So I guess by doing that, then you can take the people on the journey with you, so they're going to feel safe.
Correct. Yeah. And look, I had a thing when COVID hit us, and I remember sitting in the middle of my giant bistro there with my whiteboard and my desk out there. Was quite fun with it. But I'd sit there looking out over just had a lot of peace and solitude. And it took me a long, long time to work out the fact that, what the business I'm in is to meet people's expectations and try to exceed their expectations. So if I hit below their expectations, we're going to be in trouble. And that was what we just focused on. It's like, and it's about a feeling. In our case, it was like, when you come into our place, we try and make it feel like you're on holidays, even if you're not on holidays, and you're going to feel like you're being welcomed as a friend. It doesn't always work, of course, but that's what we try to do. And the people who we do get it right for just rave about it, and that makes me feel pretty awesome.
It's an interesting point, lining up with the last of your 3 points, creating a culture and good mental health and things, because expectations are constantly changing and evolving as well. So 30 years ago, if you had a remote control for your TV or your VCR, pretty good. Now, if you can't control everything while you're down at the beach for your whole house almost, then something's missing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the expectations there, and you can put that into whatever scenario you like, as far as getting phone calls returned, as far as when emails are gotten back, and how quick, and how the perception of everything, really.
And that's, look, I think that's why I'm involved with you. It's like, I've got to look after myself as a leader of the organisation, because if I don't look after that oxygen mask here, if I don't look after myself, I can't look after anybody else. And I'm super important with the direction of the business. And if I'm off track a little bit, like I was saying before we came on air here, it was, if I'm having a bad day, which I do from time to time, and you can't, you've got to walk in the front door, and this can't be like zippity-doo-dah every single day. But like if you walk in and you're like walking around like someone stole your last two bob, it's just going to infect everybody straight away. Yeah. So you've got to be really careful, like super careful.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Yeah. One of the things, if looking at all the organisations around, and I know you go to a lot of other clubs, and you see other, business leaders around, and you hear them, you're talking with them, and I know you listen. I know you talk a lot. We all know that, but you also listen well. Mm-hmm. What is one thing that you would say you need to get this sorted as a general rule for what's going on at the moment in the business world?
Ooh, that's a beauty. Look, I think going right back to the start, I think if you're caring and you've got values, that'll carry you through anything. And if you really, really do care, and that's authentic behaviour, and that's one of my favourite words at the moment. It's and people see that. If you're authentic, people can. There's no bullshit about it. It's like you are who you are, and what you say is, you're going to do what you say, and you do it all the time. Look, I think, especially in clubland, a lot of bright lights, and there's gambling, and a lot of money flows through, and a lot of the times in my industry, it was really shallow coming through. And look, I spent a long time in my career being really challenged by that, mentally, personally. It was it'll chew you up and spit you out real quick. So it's sort of just trying to be. And as I said, you're off air too. I'm going to do a talk I'm part of the alumni of a leadership academy back in 2021. So it's 20 odd years ago, and talking to the new guys coming through, they're going to be fresh-faced, wide-eyed, and I've got 20 minutes to talk to them. And what I'll be saying to them is, just be there for your people, look at yourself, make sure you're okay, and just really care, because that's what's going to carry you through. Two things: being able to adapt to what's in front of you. Don't be afraid to say you're wrong and care about your people, and that'll bring you through. But if you're not careful, money really skews values. I think. Be careful.
Yeah, no, that's probably a really good point. But that was a good summary of everything. Now, what we always do ask at the end of Tomorrow's Not Today podcast is, and you've heard me talk a little bit about this, but I've never asked you directly this question. So there's two parts to the question. Firstly, we talk a lot about the ultimate tomorrow, what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what would you say the ultimate tomorrow is?
Well, it sounds a bit kumbaya, but it's in a peace and happiness is one thing. Well, it is the thing for me. There's a lot of bullshit that's flown around with with doing stuff and making money and yada yada yada. But really, at the end of the day, trying to have a work-life balance and what we worked on with our mastermind group before Christmas was being authentic. Really working on your relationships at home with your spouse and your family, being a great leader in the community, doing some charitable stuff, which I get enormous reward out of, and I almost feel guilty when I go and do that because I take more out of it than what I give, I think. And just, leaving some legacy for the future leaders, I think is massive for me. But just make a difference, make a difference to somebody, just do good stuff.
Now, second part to that question, which you've partly answered, but how do you create your ultimate tomorrow?
Well, you've got to work really hard on it, and it's what I'm doing with the mastermind group at the moment. It's searching inside yourself, and it's really hard because you've got to work on what you're not doing well, and share it with your others, and just continually get better. I'm partway through a book that I got recommended to, The Compound Effect. And I'm really taking that serious at the moment. It's doing the small things correctly every day. So it's if you want to lose weight, well, maybe it's just a fact of don't eat chips with your steak, and keep doing it, that type of thing. So it's about just trying to continually improve, and and be brave to be able to make change. If you go right, well, if I'm not sleeping well, why? Delve into the question and get the answer, because the answer will be lying right in front of you. And so that's what it looks like for me. It's just make the changes. In my case, and I've had a bit of I'm skirting on the issues of over consumption with alcohol, and I've had to make some changes in my life in regard to that, and the negative effects it's having on me, because it's a bit of a silent killer. It's not that silent, but we'll tend to try and ignore it because it feels good initially. And, for most parts, most people can do well, but I have a little bit of a trouble with my relationship with alcohol at times. So it's just being brave and honest with that sort of thing and make sure it doesn't affect your life in a negative way.
I think you made a really good point there that because you hear a lot of people on podcasts and things like that, and just on TikTok and Reels, and like, oh, yeah, you just do this and this and this. And it's fantastic. It rolls off the tongue really easily. But to actually make those changes, it's not easy. And I think a lot of people look at those podcasts, and I know I have over years, watch them and go, oh, you just do that. Okay. How come it's not working for me like it worked for you? You just said it and you just do it. Whereas I'm sort of struggling putting this into play. I'm struggling to stop doing that, or I'm struggling to actually get up and make this happen. And I think what you said is really critically important, that you've got to be brave, because it's not easy to make those changes sometimes.
Correct.
And it's really hard, and you do have to push yourself. It doesn't just happen. I think that's brave, I think, is a really good word to use for that. Because you're breaking out of every thought pattern, everything that's comfortable, what other people might be thinking about you, all of that sort of thing.
And once again, you're looking at yourself, not anybody else. You're going,
yeah,
like it's we're a consumer society. And it's like, why can't I just go and buy happiness? Why can't I just go and buy? We all want to go and get I want to lose 10 kilos in 2 weeks. Like, no, it's just everyone wants a quick result, and they're not prepared to work for it much these days. So once again, I think the critical thing is looking at yourself. What do I need to do differently to get a different outcome? there's a million self-help books and podcasts and videos and CDs, whatever they are these days. But, once again, if you don't, whatever you teach me, if I don't do, it's not, you can't make it happen for me. It's just me.
Yeah, we all got to put it, and we all have to work hard at it. And funny thing is, people always think it seems to be easy because they're looking at other people on the outside. They're not looking at what's happening on the inside.
Correct.
I remember one of the guys, Andy Frisella, I'm pretty sure it was. I was watching one of his podcasts, and come from very humble beginnings through to now, incredibly successful guy. He sounds rough but he really, really cares for people unbelievably. And in his thing, he said 90% of the time you're going to be pushing it uphill. You'll wonder if you should be keeping going. Why is it so hard? Why do I have to keep struggling? And then you get about 8-9% of the time, it's like, I'm going to give up. I just can't do this anymore. And then 1% of the time, it's like, yes, I've had this massive big win. That's it. That's fantastic. I feel awesome. And then you go and do it all over again. And most people don't realize that these guys, they look phenomenal. They've got everything, all the success, everything's happening. But what they went through, and even I was listening to a podcast, Ed Milet was interviewing him just the other day, and he said, you know what, it's just as hard now as what it was back then. Because now I've got more responsibilities. Yep. I've got other issues that come up that I never dealt with then, but come up. And he said, if you're going to do it, you've actually got to understand that if you really want success that you think you want, you're going to have to work really, really hard at it.
Well, it's a continual thing, I think. It's like if you say, right, I want to, you can't just go, I want to lose 10 kilos and that's the end of the story. What you should be saying is I want to lead a healthier and better lifestyle. And this is what's going to happen. To do that, I'm going to need to get up earlier, and I'm going to need to fit an hour's worth of gym into my life 4 days a week, or get up and go whatever you're going to do. But you can't just stop and expect that's what's going to happen, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a work in progress. So it's a journey, not the destination. I guess is a bit of a cliche, but
it's funny how cliches are so very true, and that's why they become cliches.
Yeah.
Because they are true.
I'm going to make one.
Yeah, good. I'll buy into that.
All right.
Now, Steve, how can people get a hold of you? Because I would really encourage people. I know you not just from the interview, but on a more personal level. I know what you do. I know how you work. And when it comes from that leadership, culture, mental health, and making changes and making things happen well, you're definitely one of the best I've ever seen out there. And I'm not just saying that. It actually is for real. How can people get a hold of you if they want you to come and do some work in their organisation, speak for them or whatever?
Yep. I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm just at Steve Edgar with my dial on there. Probably 10 years ago with maybe a better hairstyle, a bit flattened with the rain. But so I'm on LinkedIn. Also, my mobile number is probably an easy way. It's 0421 220 135.
Wow.
Or I've just got a new website I'm trying to build, so hopefully I'll get it up soon, but that's just steve-edgar.com. So
okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. And like I said, I would certainly encourage people to get a hold of that. Steve is phenomenal at what he does. Not just good at what he does, but he actually comes from a heart of service and definitely wanting to help people as well. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today on Tomorrow's Not Today podcast. It's been a pleasure having you, and I enjoying your friendship and hanging around you. It's phenomenal. You're definitely an inspiration to me, that's for sure.
Thank you, Kingsley, and likewise. I've really changed my life since I got involved with you, and it's in a really massively good way. So good stuff, mate. I really appreciate you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, legend.
Create the life you want.
That's it.